So, good morning, BSN, and thank you for joining what is our 122nd edition, would you believe, of Good Morning BSN's Tuesday Zoomer. So, today's topic is the growth paradox: why brands are growing their reach but losing relevance, which is all about performance leadership. So the performance leadership pillar is about achieving real results and maximizing the talent within your organization. This means working towards clear goals for the future and ensuring that they're actually achieved. And so it's important to take leadership seriously and be willing to experiment, implement improvements, and make adjustments as needed. Performance management is crucial in this regard. Monitoring, measuring, and reflecting on results, and linking concrete actions and measures to these results. So for today's discussion, we are joined by Olusegun Akinyemiju for his presentation, followed by the reflection of Roseline Abaraonye. A little bit about Olusegun. Olusegun is an award-winning global brand strategist and marketing leader with over 13 years of experience across FMCG, telecoms, fintech, and spirits. He currently leads the white spirits category at Guinness Nigeria, driving brand growth, innovation, and commercial performance. So Olusegun has worked on leading brands including Airtel, Coca-Cola, GoTV, and iFitness, delivering impactful campaigns and market expansion. He's known for transforming brands through data-driven strategy, storytelling, and integrated marketing execution. His work has earned multiple industry awards, positioning him as a leading voice in brand and business growth across Africa and EMEA. About Roseline. Well, Roseline is a seasoned marketing executive and brand strategist with over 20 years of experience, driving growth and building leading FMCG brands across Nigeria. She currently serves as marketing director at Imperio International Ltd, leading brand and commercial growth strategies across multiple product categories. Her career includes senior leadership roles at Hayat Kimya, at Tiger Brands, PZ Cussons, and NN Fems Group, where she has delivered award-winning campaigns and market-leading brand transformations. A fellow of both the National Institute of Marketing of Nigeria and the Institute of Brand Management of Nigeria, Roseline is widely recognized as one of Nigeria's most influential women in marketing. She's passionate about leadership, mentorship, and empowering the next generation of business and marketing professionals. And with that said, Olusegun, over to you.
Hi, John. Thank you so much for that introduction. I wasn't sure if it was my profile you were reading because I was like, is that me? Is that me? And good morning, everyone. Good morning, my prof. It's good to see you here. And good morning to every audience. It's a privilege once again, and then we'll just dive right into our conversation this morning. Okay, so just to confirm if you can see my screen.
Yes, you can see it.
Okay, all right, fantastic. So, just for us to do a quick test, right? In today's world, and even a few years ago, I know in Nigeria we've had some regulations in this particular space, but that doesn't change the fact that email marketing we still open our mails every morning and see 25, 30,000, 10,000 new email marketing messages, SMSs. In Nigeria, it used to be a pandemic with value-added services, SMSs flying around. But then again, every brand, every company is communicating the moment you wake up. There's a saying in Lagos that says the moment you open your eyes, you started to spend money. And that's because every brand is seeking your attention. Everything begins to cost you either time or either literally cash or credit. So Attention is something that comes to us as though as is a rain, right? So it falls on everyone. It's poured out there. Wake up in the morning, the night before, digital marketing experts for brands and communication experts for brands have scheduled something to, just try and get your attention, either on the radio, on TV, or your mobile, in-app advertising. So we can say for real that, attention is not a problem for brands. However, if everybody is talking, then who is actually speaking? And that's where we need to start to look at, what exactly are you saying that's relevant to the brand? In today's world, we've even seen it. I think in the last 2 months, we've also seen AI transformation up to the point where there's integration with Meta, and ChatGPT will now be able to communicate, and create content calendar over a long period of time. So communication is not a problem. We've figured that out already. However, we still need to speak to humans who are also changing faster than how AI is transforming, which is the fact that interest begins to dip, memories begins to, form over a period of time, and then interest begins to grow when there is meaning. And of course, choice will come in a point of purchase. So when sometimes when I'm in the room with my colleagues or senior colleagues, I always try to bring a footnote. I say, everybody, let's talk as consumers, because there's also a perfection of speaking as marketers and not realizing that we are also a target for other brands. And then we see the gimmicks, or we see the intent, which the extent at which they go to get our attention. So not everything seen is remembered. It also goes to, I don't know, there's a popular saying about the red car theory, where the moment you choose to buy a red car, that's the moment you start to see the red car, the brand, the make, the year, the type, and that's when you realize that, oh, this car is actually everywhere. It goes to show that the moment you put a meaning to a brand, the brand becomes visible to you, and that's when you remember it. So every assignment of every marketing leader today is to develop an essence for meaning, because everything seen is not everything that is seen is remembered, and everything that is not everything that is remembered is preferred, because memory must become emotional resonance. So again, since using the theory of a car, and I will go into the supermarket shortly, is the moment you've decided that you have a red car, a Toyota Corolla, in mind, or a Lexus RX 350 in mind, the moment you step out, that's all you get to see. So the question for us is, how do we create that desire to become the preferred? Because once we become the preferred, everything we say and everything we do to the consumer is what they will see. Will become visible, and no longer just speaking to the consumer. Now, the last bit, which is what brings the ROI for us in marketing, is at point of purchase. Now, we've seen everything preferred. I mean, a lot of brands are doing the same thing now, especially within the category. The question now is, how do you create a tangent of that, so that at point of purchase or at decision of purchase, you come forward with relevance? And I put a footnote to say, people don't buy brands because they love them only. They buy brands because they remember them at moment of choice. So what have you done? Um, 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 how have you broken the norm? How have you stepped out from the ordinary, from your category, to communicate to the consumer, so they remember you not just for functional benefits, but even for deeper cultural and emotional benefits? So let's look at leadership decision that erodes relevance, right? Again, we are in an economy where bottom line is very important. Even top line is also as important as well. The economy is tanking globally, and we see situations where things within our control, the wars across region, devaluation of currency in some specific countries, even buying power depleting every day, increase in taxes in some other countries. We can see that this has created a lot of consumer behavior changes that, if you were planning this as your annual plan for the year, assuming you worked with a specific amount of disposable income for your target audience, over the period, in fact, in 3 months, that conversation needs to be revisited again because a lot could have changed, especially for your category if you fall within the FMCG space. So chasing short-term sales is also a very key thing, but that actually becomes a cloud or a smoke screen for us to forget where we need to be. Because somehow, when you chase the cart, you eventually chase the horse, right? So, but when you chase the horse, you realize that you are missing the goal because the horse has nothing in carriage, right? It's not kind of anything per se. It's the cart that has the meat in it. So promotion spike revenue, but erode pricing power, brand harvest equity instead of building it. So the whole idea is when you're now chasing a push, right? You are putting so much effort because you need to deliver on short-term sales, you need to deliver on bottom line, on quarterly sales targets. And what you forget is that you would have to sustain that power of your push, which is quite expensive. And personally, I have this saying that if you're not spending money, you're spending time. Money you can recover, time you can recover. And so for that is when you are losing time pushing, you're also losing equity. So you need to spend time to pull, to create a demand, to create meaningfulness, to create distinctiveness of your brand or your product so that consumers can begin to pull. And what is pull? Pull is when you decide if you are the direct consumer or you are the direct purchaser or you are the second level of purchaser, meaning that people send you to get stuff for them, or you are the one that actually go to the store. You would hear things like, please get me Colgate toothpaste, or please get me specific cornflakes, or please get me specific drink. That is the pull you want because there is meaningfulness, there's attachment, and there is demand that actually supports, your sales effort. Now, one of the things I've seen in the last 3 years as well in marketing is data influx, with the tools like AI embedded in so many of the internal tools or in-app how do I call this? Original softwares that company use to track their inventory and sales. We've seen AI come into those spaces and tell us a lot of predictions, and then people sit on data for the longest. However, I feel like we confuse data for insight. Insight does not sit. If I want to give it a ratio, I'll give a ratio of 40 to 60%. 40% sitting with data, the knowledge gathered from data, but then the insight is the truth. And that truth is that you cannot sell to the Eskimo unless you are an Eskimo. If you have not been in the same situation and conditions, if you cannot put yourself in those shoes, you need to go and learn in those shoes. And we see this in movies. We see this in professional actors that end up becoming the echelon, the 1% of the 1% in Hollywood, where they tell you how much they need to live as a blind man to play the role of a blind man, or to be in character, a specific character that demands, it's not a natural behavior. They have to exist in that space to be able to sell us originality on the screen. So how is that different from us in marketing, where you have a specific target audience that you are totally alien to? You sit in the office on data and assume that, the socioeconomic class of D and E behave a certain way when you have never lived the life, or when you've never even been in that space, or you don't have anybody in the room to advise based on that social economic class that you are deciding. So again, we need to also look at how that impacts us. Then, of course, optimize efficiency over experience. Again, we need to optimize efficiency over experience. Cutting brand touchpoints saves cost but destroys memory structure that drives future demand. Now, it's something that in marketing we have the physical memory structure and the mental memory structure. Now, destroying, over the years, the brands are trying to save money because, again, there's so many unpredictable conversations with economy and this and that. However, when we cut out this physical memory structure, people do not tie us to anything. I remember back in the days in Nigeria, we used to have a lot of things like Google Ultimate Search. These are the things that create physical memory structure that when you look at the brand or you look at the product on the table, something comes to mind. So how are we optimizing cost and destroying those memory structures? We need to watch that. And then, of course, measure revenue and ignore memory. So again, it's easy for us to be able to track numbers in terms of cash inflow, or mental availability is the leading indicator. So how do we test for mental availability? How do we know that? I've done this in a room before in a boardroom of directors, and I asked the chairman and of course the directors in the room to actually tell me the first three condiments they know. And you could see them struggling because, of course, it's not a regular place for them to play. But I said, you still need to give it an effort. I gave it an effort because you're not the TA, it is also important to test that. Are you even still communicating to your non-direct consumers? And then when I came to things that we're familiar of in terms of toothpaste and in terms of other personal care items, they could mention three names. And I told them, do you know the reason why you could mention these three names is because this repertoire that you have is because this number one brand has done these physical mental addresses or structures for you to remember it is. What is easier to defend in a boardroom, a promotion delivering result next week or a brand investment delivering in the next 3 weeks? So when we look at mental availability, physical availability, and emotional availability, can consumers think of you? It speaks to our mental availability. This is us, to build relevance is not just to throw ads out there. The question is, when consumers think of you, what are they thinking about? Can when it comes to the pain points and the gap arises within their home space, within their need space, does your brand come up with that three repertoire mindset? So do this test in your offices, do it to your colleagues, do it to your consumers. What comes to mind first? And be very, very objective about it, because if they cannot call your brand within the first three options,
You are muted, sir, Mr. Akinyemiju.
all right, thank you. So I've tested this theory to say, walk down the aisle on the supermarket and try and see what brands do you remember walking by. A lot of people don't remember. However, when you walk into the category on the aisle and you see gaps within the shelf, right? I even have pictures to this effect, and I've told people, what brand do you think sells here? And they'll point to the one that seem to be depleting on the shelf. And I said, again, the consumers are influenced by a lot of things, right? Physical availability, but also what is the strategy for your merchandising? So I haven't spent a lot of money creating mental availability. I think it's important to understand your distribution, and ensure that when consumers get there, they're able to find your product. And not just that, in case they miss the communication, when they get there, how is your shelf communicating to them as well? Then emotional availability, do consumers care? Now, a lot of times brands tend to just do a lot of functional communication. Oh, buy one, get one free. Oh, buy 100 cubes and there are 10 extra cubes inside, or this and that, and it seems as if you are not even developing an emotional connection, a level of trust, where you are campaigning about caring for the environment, caring for your staff, caring for humanity in any form and any way. So it's also important that we begin to see these gaps, to fill in and put up our brands into a place where we're emotionally available for our consumers. So lastly, the future of growth, right? In the way it works is, we build memory, we create meaning, we earn the trust, and then we also protect distinctiveness. In building memory, we have created distinctiveness. And that's where the separation comes in. The distinctiveness will come from several opportunities that your category is missing. How do you stand on the shelf? What does your label look like? What does your bottle look like? What does your packaging look like? How does it tell the story? Is it attractive enough? Can they tell? And that's why we have a lot of flanking brands or copy brands that tend to go and take that distinctiveness that your brand has presented to make it look alike, because you are also trying to, separate yourself from the competition. And of course, think longer. I think for us to be able to get growth that will impact the brand and the bottom line, while we have a desk that is thinking short-term goals, we need to have another desk that's also thinking longer. So we move from leadership to market share. It's very important that market share doesn't drop down from the heavens, right? It's also a function of volume of purchase, frequency of use, and of course, the relevance in the mind of the consumer. Because having spent money to communicate to 20 million people, for example, you need at least 10% of that to become ambassadors that will drive, recruit even consumers for you. There's a campaign now by a beer brand that is actually leveraging on the fact that the consumer recognizes that he can also influence a consumer right beside him at the bar, saying that, oh, my friend is also here, give him a bottle, so that's the brand that's also recognized the fact that even after I've recruited, I want my recruits to recruit for me. And that's where you start to build trust. When your consumers also trust your brand, you are able to create ambassadors and evangelists for that. So market shares follows mind share follows meaning, and meaning follows leadership. So you need to lead with your communication, you need to lead with your strategy, you need to lead with breaking the barriers within your category. And the world where everybody can buy rich, especially with AI right now, relevance becomes the ultimate competitive advantage. And at that point, I would say that relevance is now the gold that we need to mine, and driving that relevance comes from building trust, investing in mental addresses, which is mental structure, both in physical and so both mental structure and physical structure. Brands need to invest in physical assets that consumers can remember. Like over the weekend, a condiment brand, has owned the mental space for something that is very deep within our culture here in Lagos, and is also their own way of ensuring that they stay top of mind, they stay relevant, they create meaning for the consumer, so that by point of purchase, they become the choice of brand. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Olusegun. Roseline, over to you for the reflections. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dean. Thank you, Mr. Akinyemiju. That's very insightful, like very wonderful presentation. And I particularly, the presentation kind of gives us strong insights around what our consumers are actually looking for now to be able to connect meaningfully with the brands. One of the most striking insights for me in the presentation was the distinction around mental availability, physical availability, and emotional availability. So basically, what exactly are we doing? What exactly are the brands doing to ensure that the investments are not wasted? Because visibility without memorability looks like a wasted investment. What are the brands doing to ensure that when the consumers get to the moment of truth, how are they actually choosing your brand? Because you are now available mentally to them. And when they get to the aisle, are they seeing you? Are you reachable? Are you physically available? So those were, very profound for me. And, looking at the chart that was presented, where we have attention at 100% and choice as low as 6%, we see that brands as leaders, we need to kind of think more about how we are actually driving this connection with our brands and our consumers. If they are aware of the brand and they know about the brand, they were able to come in contact with the brand 100%, and they only 6% decide to choose, then there is a problem, with the brand. So converting attention to choice is the main challenge or food for thought that I think that we need to go out with today. So these days, visibility alone is no longer a reliable indicator of brand strength. So basically, we need to look for how to grow relevance on the brand, so that there will be strong loyalty on the brand. Else, we won't be able to build the community. And knowing that today, markets are no longer built around products, but they are built around the people. So there is a lot of community building going on. So there's community, there's a strong place for community, there's a strong place for culture, there's a strong place for connection, within the marketing space, within the brand space these days. So, and for you to be able to build a strong community, a brand community, strong culture and a strong connection with the consumers, the brand has to build trust, the brand has to build relevance, and the brand has to build consistency, and authenticity around these brands to be able to have that mental availability and emotional availability that is required for the consumers to choose you at the moment of truth. One other thing that stood out was the talk around the insights, confusing data for insights. So we need to, as leaders, mine our data to actually get into real insights, consumer insights, because a strong community, building a strong connection with the consumers depends on the level of insights that the brand actually has to be able to drive that attention and drive that choice, as we have seen in the presentation today. So basically, brands must evolve. There's no more place for dumping. So one thing that actually also struck me was when they talked about prioritizing promotions over brand building. We see that happening a lot today. So as business leaders, what exactly are we doing with our businesses and our brands today? So in conclusion, I would say that the growth paradox basically reminds us of that growth and relevance have to go hand in hand for us to really build that brand that consumers can reckon with. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Roseline, and also Olusegun. Paul, can I ask you, did you monitor for any questions perhaps in the chat? I might have missed them, but I didn't see any just yet.
Just a minute. I'm not sure. Okay.
If there are any questions while Paul is checking for any others, if there are any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. We have a few minutes in which we can address those.
There's a question from Annie. I think you can, okay. It says, how do you explain that sustainability of a brand to consumers determine the choice of reckoning? How do you explain that the sustainability of a brand to consumers determine the choice of reckoning? I don't know if you get that, Mr. Olusegun.
Yeah, so if I would rephrase this question, maybe he's trying to say that sustaining a brand in the market, right, to the consumers, is how do you determine
the choice of reckoning? I don't know.
The choice of reckoning. So again, right, like Roseline has actually recalled again, right? It is a drastic drop from attention. So the statistics now says that 6% of every 100 people, 6 people out of every 100 are the ones that most likely will choose you if you are communicating to your direct target audience. Now, what does that mean for you? So when you are communicating and you're expanding, you need to make sure that, you give enough reasons to convert. And this is average. So again, we have situations where even lower than 6%, even lower than 1% of who you have communicated with or gotten there, or even just dumped information on. So eventually is creating that meaningfulness. A lot of brands today need to stop communicating functional. Everybody knows what the product will do. The question is, how would the product make me feel when I use it? How have you translated that need, that relevance gap to the consumer through your investment in communication? And it does not necessarily mean that it has to be an ATL function. It can also be a BTL function where how do you create physical addresses where consumers can go and experience your brand? We see that in modern trade, the supermarkets where the merchandising creates experiences in the mall or in the shopping or in the supermarket. However, outside place of purchase, do people experience your brand to just see? Let me give an example. Is there any detergent brand today that has created a space where you can just go and smell the fragrance of the detergent? What do you think would do to consumers to just say they created this very small space, walk in there, and the fragrance that you get when you finish washing your clothes is all that is available in that space. So you can just live there. What do you think will happen to that person? The person who becomes sensory-wise, the person is sold forever to say that that's the only fragrance they want to smell when they use your detergent, or even if it's your dishwasher. So the question is, create meaningfulness as much as you can. When you convert, make sure you are able to make them ambassadors, because they need to give after they've purchased. They need to give back. And giving back to you is recruiting somebody else. I think that's where sustainability comes in.
All right. Thank you.
Can I add something to this?
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
Just building on what Mr. Olusegun has said, consumer needs are evolving, and for you to build a sustainable brand, you have to kind of evolve with the needs of the consumers. And if we look today, there's a strong place of community. So tying back to what Mr. Olusegun said, basically, how are you and your brands taking advantage of the community, that exists, around your brand today? How are you building on it? How are you kind of taking it forward? So being able to build trust on the brand and take advantage of the community and show your relevance and get people to actually experience the product goes a long way to driving sustainable growth on the brand. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. So I have a question, just to in line with today's topic. So a lot of organizations, just like Mr. Akinyemiju has hinted, celebrate, growth in followers, market reach, and customer acquisition. But yet, today's topic suggests that growth can sometimes mask decline in relevance, right? Based on the topic for today. So what are the key signs that a brand is growing in reach, but gradually losing its connection with customers? What are those signs that, yes, as a brand, you're growing in your reach, but you're losing connection with customers?
So I think it's in a place where I also mentioned about data and insights, right? And also what Madam Rosen has also said in terms of the consumers are evolving. Are you evolving with them? So the reach will always be a direct result of direct expense, right? You invested in so amount of money on your broadcast in terms of message push. So of course you reach 20 million people, no doubt. The question now is, are you still saying what is relevant to the consumer? Are you still hitting any pain point? Are you still solving any problems for them? Are you still building brand love for them? And that's where, relevance comes in. So if you're not moving with the consumer, you probably left them at the bus stop. And you are now clapping for yourself. You are now speaking to yourself. You are now in your own space. I started with saying that for most times in the room, once we want to start the conversation, I would say, guys, drop a marketing cap and let's be consumers again. Because you can be in the room and just be very analytical about a lot of things that are no longer what the consumer is, who the consumer is. So my own feedback to you is, if you cannot do it in person, ensure you have systems that go to the consumer, move to the consumer. We started this conversation offline by saying I was saying when I was in the jungle. Yes, because you need to follow your product. Follow it to Ekiti, and I'm speaking to the context of Nigeria. Follow it to the urban cities, follow it to the rural cities, leave the urban cities. Lagos is not Nigeria. Go to up north. How are they using your milk? How are they using your detergent? Go into the middle class where they're not in Lagos or in the mega cities. How are they purchasing? What are they using your product for? How is it relevant to them? If you're speaking about good living and sustainable life, is that what's relevant to the guys in the middle belt? And then what will relevant to them if you need to speak to them? So you need to follow the consumers, because again, there are different divisions amongst all of us. There's culture, there's religion, there's ethnic beliefs and all of that. So let's just say that once you don't follow the consumer, the relevance begins to drop, and your metrics, impression, reach will continue to stay high, and you wonder why you're not converting.
Thank you very much, Madam Abaraonye. I don't know if you have any addition to that.
No, I think he's addressed it.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you. There's another question from Juke van Nierop. It says, thank you for the presentation. Thanks for the presentation. How do social media influence the purchasing process? Aren't social media dominant in a marketing approach by now? Did you get the question? Or
yes, I think I get an idea of that. So social media will continue to be a powerful influence, and I think Madam Roseline has actually pushed to the point where community is also very important, right? And that's where the power of influence is. It's been a cultural thing for us, even in the 1900s, 1700s, 1800s. We used to have something we call Iyaloja. Iyaloja is the head of markets, right? Head of traders in the market, right? That's where social influence started from. Whatever the head of market says will be the trend in the market going forward in the next period is what is going to be. So there are communities and there are community leaders, and that's where the influence is. So social media thrives on community. And once there's an influencer, now community is no longer a physical thing, it's not a mental thing, in the sense that I am someone that loves BMW, for example. That's a community. I'm someone that loves being where there's loud music. That's a community. I'm someone that prefers this over that. That's another community. So when a brand decides to convert or to speak to a specific community, they are able to use the leader or an influencer in that community to drive retention or to drive recruitment. So of course, social media continue to be a very strong tool to influence or drive influence of purchasing process. So once somebody says, oh, consumerism is what we call it on our side here. So consumerism is, does this influencer have the power to convert or to influence a consumer to purchase? So once you're able to drive down to the brand fit, consumer fit, campaign fit for that influencer, I bet that you'll be able to get the kind of purchasing results that you want for your product. So it's still a relevant tool, yes.
Thank you very much.
I might just add,
Okay.
yeah. So still in line with what he has said, basically is relevance. So if you're using social media, how relevant are the people that you're using to your brand? He talked about brand fits. You go and get someone who is not believable. Remember, communities are built on trust. So they must trust you, they must trust your brand, they must believe in your brand, they must believe that this brand is for me. And that's why they're even members of your community in the first place. So relevance is a very key factor in driving conversion on social media. So the brands need to ensure that the level of influencers or key opinion leaders that being used to drive the brand must be relevant to that brand. It has to be a brand fit. So I believe that's just the mathematics to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. The brand fit is very, very important. All right, over to you, John. That's all questions we have for today.
Lovely, and thanks again to both Olusegun and Roseline for this morning's really insightful session. And thank you also to everyone that joined us this morning. So if you want to find out more about BSN's Impact Center for Great Leadership, or if you're interested in a program to further grow your talent or that of your team, just put it in the chat and we will contact you. For next week's topic, what you can look forward to is the topic of leading through perception, how strong brand positioning drives business performance and change adoption. Our speaker there is Olanike Ademakinwa, who is Director of Qualitative Research with the Royal Bank of Canada. And our reflective for next week will be Toyin Adepegba, Head of Marketing for Top Wide Care. We look forward to welcoming you all there. And with that, that's a wrap for today's session. Thank you everyone for joining and have a great day. Thank you.